Okay, welcome everyone. This is Washington State Building Code Council special work session for Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. Can we please take roll?
Todd Bayerther,
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
thank you. Scott Bastiani, not seen online. Jason Benway, not seen online. Tom Handy,
Here.
thank you. Angela Haupt,
Here.
thank you. Roger Hiringa,
Here.
thank you. Ty Menser,
Here.
thank you. Ben Omura,
Here.
thank you. Vikram Akami, not seen online. Katie Sheehan, not seen online. Morgan Tweed let us know that they wouldn't be present today. Tom Young,
Here.
thank you. Dan Young,
Here.
thank you. And just let me go back and review. Scott Bastiani, still not online. Jason Bentley, still not online. We have a quorum today.
Okay, welcome everyone. Would anyone from the public like to be recognized?
Oh, we have Katie Sheehan in the wings there. Give me 1 second. I'll promote you over, Katie.
Okay, while we're doing that, then I see Patrick's hand.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, I see no other. Oh, there we go, Robert.
Yeah, this is Robert Glass with Daikin Comfort Technologies.
Welcome, Robert. Okay. Seeing no other hands, we will go straight into the agenda. Do we have minutes?
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, we need to
The agenda, yes.
approve the agenda. So could we hear a motion to approve the agenda? Maybe we should pull it up, Dustin, if you're
Oh, I'm not
multitasking.
sharing screen, am I? I'm sorry.
And I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second. This is Dan.
Okay. Any proposed edits to today's agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Item 3, review the minutes for July 7th, last week.
Yeah.
Your motion to approve, please.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes from July 7th as presented.
Second, this is Jay.
Okay. Anyone see any edits? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, and we'll jump right into our list in item 4, please.
All right. So today posted for the meeting, we have 2 documents. One of them is a full list of the comments, which was posted before the document that was posted earlier today. The full list is there just to get all the comments out there and getting them to start to be aired out. But it's not, that first list that was put out was not organized for us to really digest it here today. So we did some additional work. We had some additional lines that need to be added after that was posted. And we have the second document on there. That's the comments selected for today's work session, which is the one I plan to show here today. And that one is trimmed down to only have comments relevant to single exits, multiplex housing, and editorial modifications or comments that are suggesting modifications so they're supporting the code change, but they're suggesting modifications to lend to that support as well. And so we have some that are labeled as editorial and some that are just labeled as modifications. The editorial one should be a little bit faster to digest. And so I would propose that we go through the multiplex housing first, then the single exits, then things that are labeled editorial, and then if we get to it, we'll handle the ones that are calling for modifications, because those I do believe are going to be a little bit more technical than just a correlation here or there, like some of the oral comments we heard. So with that, I will pop open the comments doc that's labeled for the 14th and bring it up for you guys. And we can start at the top. They're not quite as organized, just in alignment with the agenda. We have some that are touching both multiplex housing and single exits on here at the very top, but most of this multiplex housing topic ones are below here. As we run through, we've got mostly support for these proposals moving forward and a couple modifications suggested. As we move through, I'm going to skip past the ones that are just lending support and try to go to the ones that are looking to bring in any sort of modification. So the first one I have that suggests a modification is from Sherry Newbold. It's a written one, is 24 PC-024. And the modification that they are looking to potentially bring into this appendix is to have a pathway for non-sprinklered configuration. And so I'll open up the specific comment. I'll pause for the hand from Katie and then also Roger.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to follow along on the document. Is this the one that is posted on the website? Because this looks different to me. I don't know if
Let me show you where we're at here.
Sorry, everyone.
No, that's all right. So if we're on the meeting one here today, it's this comments selected for the 7/14/26 work
Got
session.
it. Thank you so much.
No problem. And so that's in a PDF format. The one I'm going to be showing today is the Excel spreadsheet, and there's an extra column off to the side that's really just set there for staff to put comments in and make some notes as we digest these.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dustin,
All
if
right.
I may,
Oh, yes.
I really wanted to just set the table for everybody because this issue got mixed up in our tag all the time. So as we are talking about multiplex, we are talking about allowing a sixplex up to 3 stories to be built out of the residential code. So there are often we get, as we're starting to talk about details of different things, there is the single exit, which is the building code, and there's the multiplex, which is the residential code. So if we're going to talk about multiplex first, let's all just keep in our minds that this is sixplex, maximum 3 stories built out of the residential code. Just thought that was an important precursor to talking about comments.
That is very well placed comment, Roger, for setting the stage there. So thank you. And so this particular comment that we're embarking on with here right now doesn't propose any specific language, just that there could be a pathway that allows for no sprinklers in a multiplex building built out of the new appendix that doesn't require sprinkler systems. And so without specific language, do we want to talk more about what the recommendation is? We have some other recommendations in other comments to consider less sprinklered provisions in future editions of this appendix. And pause for Angela.
Options with no sprinklers were discussed in the tag and didn't make it through. So I think this should be considered kind of a moot point. We did go down the path. We discussed lowering the number of units, the number of stories, whatever, but the tag's decision was unanimously to include sprinklers for them.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. I wanted to say the same thing. I also would just want to recognize that the tag also was aware of the cost issue, and that very much was part of our conversation as we talked about just an option with sprinklers or some other options. And at the end of the day, we decided to go down this path of sprinklers only, and thought that that was the proper way, particularly for this code cycle. If there's conversations at the next code cycle, if we wanted to expand this and allow for these buildings with using more drywall or other fire ratings of some way, we could consider that. But for the work that we did, we felt like basing it on the sprinkler systems that we have. So,
Hey, Dustin, as you're going through this, would it be helpful that we pull up the language and maybe even the Sierra 102 just to occasionally remind everyone what we're...
Yes, I can get that pulled up here real
Okay.
quick. Let me finish this sentence and I'll
course.
get it popped open.
And Roger or Angela, you just want to verbally kind of communicate where the tag landed on the 13R system? We don't need to rehash it, but I just want to make sure everyone's talking about the same thing.
go
You
ahead,
mean
Angela.
why? Sorry, you mean why we
No,
did the
just what it is,
13R?
just like very factually, the NFPA 13R, just make sure
Yeah,
everyone
so-
understands.
Yeah, so a 13R is a 13 residential system. Yes, there is a lower system, which is a 13D, which is allowed in other IRC structures. But the standard for the different sprinkler systems, and I'm sure Dan can speak to this and correct me if I'm wrong, but a 13D system is limited to, I believe, 2 dwelling units is what it kind of, or it's a number of dwelling units that can be served by a single 13D system. You could have individual 13D systems, but not one. And I believe that's the standard, sort of states that as a definition of that sprinkler system. The 13R is what is used standard in multifamily units. The difference between the major difference between them is, and again, Dan can correct me, but is the coverage, the areas where the heads are required to be located. There are more in a 13R system than in a 13D. And I'll let Dan, maybe because he's unmuted, go.
So yeah, 13D is for dwelling. 13R is for like residential, such as an apartment or similar. And then a full 13 system is what you have in commercial. Is a very basic one, but yeah, 13D is not adequate for these structures. That's why we went with the 13R. And looking at cost, a 13R is less expensive than a 13 because there's no attic coverage in a 13R.
There's no attic. Okay, and then Dan, without obviously regurgitating the entire tag process, can you maybe help us understand the 13R versus the full 13, just in terms of kind of the strategy of
Yeah, so like I said,
compartmentalization versus
we're going to compartmentalize, and one of the things the 13 system requires is attic, which is not required in the 13R. So that cuts your costs a lot. Because if you're putting the sprinklers in the attic, now you're going to have a dry system, most likely, or you're going to have to encapsulate the whole building with like spray foam, something like that. So going to a 13 system will increase the costs. After lots of discussion on this, the 13D, you just can't do it with the size of the floors and all that. So that's why the tag ended up at the 13R for these.
And then kind of jumping ahead, can you maybe help us a little bit on the 13 system when we get to the single exit, like where those thresholds are of here is making sure that we contain it within a compartment versus structural damage, so forth.
Yeah. So all sprinkler systems are going to be compartmentalized, right? Not to go into a huge amount, but one of the things that we have to do with education is everybody has the die hard type thing where somebody lights a match over one head and all the heads go off. That does not happen. Only the heads that are released by the heat caused by the fire. So that's how you compartmentalize it. And then also in these units, if I remember Yeah. With these units, it doesn't. It's just going to go where the fire is in any of the 13 systems. So it comes down to a cost thing, and that's why we ended up with the 13R system.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Roger?
And Dan, it's, as we went through this, educating myself about the sprinkler systems was part of the process. So again, thinking about the multiplex, right now in a duplex, which is covered under the residential code, what is the sprinklers? Our sprinklers are required.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So
maybe not.
well, in the IRC and the IBC, by national standards, all ours have to be sprinklered. Washington has not adopted that.
Okay.
Right. So, but a 13D can be used in a duplex because it's a 1 and 2 family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what the tag decided is, okay, we're expanding this to sixplex, so 6 families, where even part of the consideration is in a duplex, you have one other family that you have to consider besides yourself. Now in a sixplex, there are 5 other families that you need that have some impact on the structure, as well as some common areas. There are some stairs potentially, I guess, required, probably most likely to do a sixplex. So that's why the tag, with all of those things going to a 13R, we felt was important. But all of those things were considered as we went through the tag process.
Okay. At least a couple of the comments, obviously proposed no sprinkler and some other measures. Angela, I think, communicated that was discussed during the tag process, but can maybe when I was asking about the 13R versus the 13, I was trying to get a feel for the different level of protection. Is one, higher probability that it would be contained within that apartment, that one unit. Go ahead, Angela.
Well, I mean, a 13R system is adequate to protect an apartment. I mean, that's what it does. Full 13, the 13 goes into the attic so that if something gets up there, it's also protected and more for commercial uses. So I mean, a 13R system is adequate. Again, the 13D can't be used because it specifically applies to 1 and 2 family dwellings. So it's not an option to use really with the standard. So, but yes, that's a 13R is designed to protect multifamily units. And another thing to keep in mind that was just kind of was reminded of is that we should keep in mind that the Washington State Residential Code already gives a break on sprinklers. The base code requires sprinklers in all residential buildings. Washington State, we removed that. So this is adding back in for this appendix a requirement because this, again, is closer to multifamily. It's a middle housing. We're giving it breaks. We're making it easier, but completely alleviating the sprinkler system is just, I mean, in my opinion, would be irresponsible, and there's no proof that it should happen or no backing. But as for your question, Todd, yes, the 13R sprinkler system is adequate.
Okay. And then I can't remember which comment it was. Can someone please address, the difference in the tap fees or whatever they're called, in terms of the supply with the city? Go ahead, Angela.
You're talking about you're talking about the
What does it mean at the main or
fee.
the meter,
You're
so
talking
forth?
about the meter
Yeah.
fees.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that differs. It differs by jurisdiction and by water district. Like in Kirkland, if the size of the meter is driven by the number of fixtures per the plumbing code, if that is what drives the the meter up to a certain size, then they get charged for that meter. If that meter size has to be upsized only because of sprinklers being required, they do not pay that difference. They simply pay for the smaller meter, and Kirkland eats the difference. So like usually, like in a single family, not the multifamily, it would be a 3/4 inch meter required for a single family. But if they do sprinklers, they're required to have a 1 inch. They only have to pay for the 3/4 inch. But again, it's based on the water district and the jurisdiction on how they handle those charges. It's not across the board in this by the state.
Thank you. And I know I'm bringing this way down. I just want to make sure we're addressing all of the comments that I read. Tom, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not an expert on this, but I work in several jurisdictions, so I kind of will kind of like agree with what Angela has said. So in some cities they make you do a separate meter or a separate tap. They make you do like a detector check or something because they don't want to charge you for water for fire suppression. And some cities they may, even if it does require a larger meter to support the sprinkler system, they'll only charge you for your domestic use size. So for the most part, I think that the different jurisdictions are trying to negate the cost of the meter and the connection for fire protection.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Okay. Anything else the council wants to address? Dustin, are you going to lead us through this?
Yeah, I was going to go to the next comment that was suggesting a change, and that one is this one from Bryce Yadden. It's similarly asking to relax the sprinkler requirements. And so I was going to mark this one as kind of discussed in the same vein as what we discussed earlier, is that the sprinkler provisions have been discussed at length, and cost was a big part of the consideration for that.
Okay.
And then that brings me to the last comment that is suggesting some changes for this appendix. And that one is from John Sue. And this one, instead of asking for sprinkler stuff, they're talking about bringing in some sound attenuation requirements for this appendix. And we have some specific language included in the comment, which is here. And this is something that was not talked about at length for the multiplex housing appendix. And we have sound attenuation requirements in other aspects of the building code for commercial projects. And this one being a bridge between commercial and residential might have some room to be placed in there. So I'll turn it over to the council to discuss this one a little bit more.
And John, I think I see you on there as JS. I don't know if you're willing. Yeah, thank you. We're not taking testimony today, but I had a question. When I read your proposal, I wasn't clear if it's recommending the IRC level or the IBC level.
Oh, excuse me. I'm recommending the IRC level. If you go to Dustin, if you scroll down to page 3, keep going. That's the actual language, and
Gotcha.
It is referring to the IRC appendix.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so the question for the council then is, one, should this be addressed? And if so, is it substantive to make this addition? Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I'm trying to again remember the many meetings that we had. I don't recall that sound transmission was discussed at length, if at all. I'm not sure. And I guess I am thinking that going again, kind of thinking about it as the IRC currently is set up for a duplex where you have one other family that you have to I'm just going to say live with in a building, to now having up to 6 families. I can see where sound transmission might very well be an issue, and having, going to the point where, and I think that does it raise to the level of a, health and welfare of the residents? I think the answer is yes. So going to the level of the residential, sound transmission for the IRC would make sense to me. So that's my editorial comment. I read John's suggestion and proposal here just this morning, and think it actually makes a lot of sense. So
Thank you, Roger. Let's go to Angela.
I totally agree with Roger. I think this is the health and well-being kind of thing. I mean, anyone who's lived in an apartment of any sort, if you don't have any sound transmission, it'll be miserable, no matter how quiet you try to stay. And I'm actually quite surprised that we missed this at the tag level, because it's a common sense addition. Thanks.
Tom, go ahead and then I'll ask a question.
Okay, yeah, I agree with all of that. I was just curious though, if anybody has a sense on, since we're trying to make affordable housing more affordable, at about how much this would add to the cost of a project. If anybody has just a guess, curious.
So he's got some stuff in here. I don't have it memorized. About $1.50 per square foot for materials and 4 hours of labor per 320 square feet of wall.
Is there a way to break that into like a percentage? Simpler to.
There probably is, but I probably can't do that one on the fly for you.
Okay.
So I have a couple comments and a question. One, I would have assumed a baseline would have this in it already, so I don't see this as an addition. I'm kind of curious if others did. Assume that you wouldn't try to achieve these kind of these performance requirements on a demising wall. But then I don't know the IRC as well. So what triggers? Apparently, what is being said here is that Appendix BG is not adopted in Washington, and there's not there's not charging language for it. Or can someone walk me through that? Go ahead, Angela.
Was not prepared for that one. I'm gonna have to pull up.
Okay, yeah, ask your question and then we can circle back. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I can't remember what I was gonna say now. I had something, but Roger was ahead of me, so let him go.
Okay, go ahead, Roger.
I was going to let Angela go because I thought she might be able to answer your question, Todd. But for Tom, I will qualify this as completely off of the cuff. But numbers that I recall being discussed are like $150 a square foot for overall construction to 250. I mean, I think that there was a range in that neighborhood. And I think those numbers came up when we were having the conversation about sprinklers. So if you're taking an overall percentage number, I think the denominator is in that $150 to $200 a square foot number. So I'm not going to say what it is, but just to inform you a little bit of what that denominator might look like, that's the range you're talking about.
Okay, so maybe 1-2% or something. Okay.
Okay, Angela.
Okay, so yeah, so the sound transmission, whoops, I don't know what I just did there, but the sound transmission appendix isn't mandatory, but can be adopted, it looks like, by ordinance. And then as far as, I think, Tom, were you kind of saying that wouldn't people, or somebody said, wouldn't people just be doing this anyway, or something between apartments? And I mean, you'd be amazed what people don't do when they don't have to. But yeah, I just, I'm just still surprised that we didn't have this in there. So.
Okay, Roger.
Todd, again, knowing that there wasn't a conversation, I am aware of a member of the public that would have some additional information on the overall costs, and that is Patrick Hanks, who has his hand raised. I would like to get his clarification and understanding on that.
Okay, and then I see John, maybe you can add some clarity to this too. Patrick, go ahead, but I want to frame this in a way that, again, this implies that there's an assumption that people would not do this and this would not be in the baseline. So, but go ahead, Patrick.
Well, to that point, I think you're kind of looking at two things. So when you're first doing the multiplex, you're comparing it to the commercial code because you're reducing. The idea is that right now, if you want to do multiplex, you'd have to build it under the IBC, and with this, you can build it under the IRC. So there's things like, to reference earlier the sprinkler discussion, where a 13R sprinkler is a cost increase from the IRC, but from the IBC, it's a cost reduction. So the IBC has sound transmission requirements. The IRC doesn't have those same requirements, although I would say the IRC, you can have townhouse, like I think up to 6 townhouse units next to each other, which I've seen some similar multiplex designs. And also keep in mind the Washington State Energy Code has higher insulation requirements than the national codes, so you'll get some additional sound dampening from that. I did look a little bit at the cost. I'll say I'm not a professional cost estimator, but there's different ways you can adjust the assembly to meet the standard that John is suggesting. It looked to be like you're either going to have to add an extra layer of gypsum on both sides of the assembly wall, or do a specialty rated gypsum in addition to some other detailing things. What I looked at is, around $2 per square foot for that material. So it depends on how many square footage of wall you have. It's up to you to decide if that's an acceptable cost change you want to do. But that's, and I emailed some information to the council members on this.
No, appreciate that. I'm looking at it right now, so thank you. Okay, thank you, Patrick. John, you had your hand raised.
Yeah.
Maybe go ahead and make your comment. I also had that charging language question.
Yeah, on the charging, excuse me, on the charging language, I just want to agree with Angela. The appendix in the IRC is not mandatory. So you could have duplexes, and as Patrick points out, you can have townhouses next to each other that don't have the required. It's not required that they meet the sound attenuation. Now, as Patrick also points out, you've got insulation and some other things. Plus, a lot of the townhouses are double wall, or excuse me, have double layer of chipboard anyway for the fire rating between them. So that may get you your sound rating kind of automatically. So in this case, we have not been requiring the same kind of construction as you have in townhouses. And particularly, the IRC does not, well, other than duplexes, as Roger pointed out, it doesn't envision several people living on top of each other. So this would require, generally, it doesn't always require an extra layer of chipboard. It may require adding what I called here in my comment, resilient channels. My experience is that most 1 hour assemblies is just a single layer of chipboard with a layer of these resilient channels between that and the joists above for a floor assembly. Similarly, a stud wall can be a single layer of chipboard with resilient channels. So it depends how much insulation and things you put in between there, but there are many options, as I kind of point out here in the Gypsum Association manual. That can be used. UL has some as well. Yeah, as far as cost goes, I mean, obviously I'm not a cost estimator either, professional. So I just use whatever AI gave me. Um, as you can see there, it ranges anywhere from $1.50 a square foot plus labor to, depending what you do with a floor, 350 plus 350 to $12 a square foot, depending what you're doing with the floors.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead,
Todd,
Roger.
I have a question for
Thank you, John.
John.
Yeah.
Well, clarification of your 350 to $12. That's
Yep.
on a square foot of floor.
Yes.
Okay. So again, trying to figure out, and then can you talk to me a little bit about, so there's been several good comments about walls, adding insulation or layers or what would be required. Less conversations about floors because you also have the what is it, the STC and then the
I see. Yes.
IIC requirements. So can you just describe a little bit better what would be required on the floors just for educational purposes for everybody?
Yeah, in general, there's a couple ways to get there's several ways to get the STC rating. A little bit of insulation in the floor, plus the resilient channels usually gets you your STC rating. The difficulty is the IIC rating, which is impact. Is basically, think about walking with heels on a wood floor. You get a lot of noise, right? And you're trying to attenuate that. The one, and it's been a long time since I've looked at details, but back when I was doing plan review a long time ago, it meant you added gypcrete, like three-quarters of an inch of gypcrete, or an inch and a half of lightweight concrete on top of the floor as topping for to get the impact ratings.
Okay. Thank you, John. And I just want to say, Todd, this conversation hasn't changed my opinion. It is something that I think we missed that should be included. I very much appreciate the perspective that Patrick has, is that right now, if you're building a sixplex, you're doing it under the IBC. And so this appendix helps reduce costs by allowing it to do the IRC, but I think that there needs to be this sound attenuation. So I'm in support of adding this.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Tom?
Okay. Do we have an architect in the group here? Because getting your STC rating is kind of similar to getting your R value for thermal, kind of like the same idea of getting your fire rating for fire rated assembly. So there's many different like options and structures to get your STC rating. If it's hard floors, you may have to do certain things. If you got carpet, there's other things. Okay, so this might be a little getting too complicated for this kind of council workshop. And so, kind of somewhat of a dilemma here trying to advance this, but this is maybe more technical, than we should be dealing with right now. And the purpose of this was to make housing more affordable, try to keep costs out, and having developed apartments, sometimes, even though it's not required, we do add more soundproofing, like I did on one of my projects than was required. I think we still need to leave the option to make these homes as affordable as possible. And a developer, whoever comes in, they can always increase it because they will think about marketability and such.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Tom. I think again, this is a workshop, so we don't have to make a decision today, but I guess my question for the council is in the context that I think the TAG did an excellent job in the IRC and the multiplex of trying to stay within the spirit of the IRC, what would be most appropriate then, in these provisions. So I see I don't think Vikram's here today to represent the architecture seat, but I think we can take that question and kind of seek more input this week. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, Todd, I mean, I've already expressed my opinion. I
Yeah.
think I support it. I do want to, I meant to say this when I introduced the whole discussion about single exit and multiplex housing. I just wanted to make sure, and I think I've said this at council meetings, the tag that we had was, A plus as far as the people across the state were technically competent people. So I just want to assure everybody our tag and representation from a whole lot of people, industry as well, builders. So I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that our tag, when we talked about these things, we had all of the experts in the room from the state of Washington. So,
Yeah, I think that's always great to reiterate. Katie, go ahead and then I'll propose next steps.
Yeah, just from a user perspective, I used to be a fair housing attorney, and a huge amount of my calls used to come from like different noise complaints. We're talking families, we're talking people with disabilities, to name a few, and just feels like any amount of information to help people in the future. And I know that I don't think I see our disability person here either, but it just the person, I can't remember their name, they're new.
Morgan Tweed.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I don't know. I just think that I would be in support of something like this, because it would really have a lot of great impacts later on. So.
Okay. Well, I think it's good. Since Morgan and Vikram aren't here today, obviously their two seats are pretty critical on this topic. So let's get their input next week. We haven't said at this meeting, but like last week, I think the next steps are for a council member to bring forward then and propose the amendment. In this case, John has provided potential language. I have a question still on that would be charging language then in the appendix, but do we also need to adopt Appendix BG if this charging language points to it? Okay, I'll just leave that question hanging. And then, oh, John has his hand up. Maybe that's what it's about. Go ahead, John.
I'll give you my opinion. I don't think so because if you adopt the entire appendix, this is not intending to adopt the entire appendix. It's just pointing at two sections of it, and I'd be concerned that if you then adopt the whole appendix, then that makes the whole thing applicable rather than just these two sections. This is just pointing to the two sections, and it charges those two sections only.
Gotcha. So you're saying BG 102. So you don't have to adopt that section. You can point to it because it's already.
Yeah, it's being charged through this
Gotcha.
appendix.
Okay. I think that makes sense to me. Thank you, John. Angela.
Yeah, the appendix has already been adopted. It's an optional appendix. And all this is saying is that if you want to use this section to build these multiplex, then you have then these two sections of that appendix do apply. Again,
Okay.
like John said, if we actually go and adopt that appendix, then it applies
Yep.
to all if you make it mandatory in that case, it would adopt to everything in the IRC then versus just the two sections there and here. So I don't think you need to do anything further with that appendix.
Okay. I think what you're telling me is I'm thinking of it too much as an external reference that this is actually part of the code that's adopted. It's just not mandatory. Gotcha. Roger, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to say, Todd, as the chair of the single exit multiplex housing, I will take on creating an amendment. So if people have comments, send them my way. I'll try to coordinate those. And at whatever time we're entertaining as a council, approving amendments, as long as I know ahead of time, I will make sure that there's a clear proposed amendment to
Okay.
this section.
And
So
that would include reaching out to Morgan and Vikram, I assume, and
sure.
then coordinate with them. And then I think what we agreed last week is that when ready, we'll post them. We're not holding back. We'll try to get those amendments posted for
Okay.
these meetings. So
Okay.
we just haven't posted any yet. Anyone disagree? Okay. Okay. Anything else on this topic? Go ahead, Tom.
I just got something that's a little bit more general than just this, but it has to do with what you just said. When those things do get posted, could there be a little email sent out just saying where to look?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I think am I remember this correctly? We proposed that we're going to have an amendment tracker. So it's very clear. We know where to go to find these amendments, proposed amendments. Okay.
Yeah, it was
If
not more not where, it was more when.
Yeah, understood. Okay. That's a good comment. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Anything else on the multiplex?
Nope, the remaining, so also not on this sheet today, but we have some general comments that do touch on multiplex and single exits. But we don't have any comments that are in opposition for multiplex or single exits that are not on this sheet. So the remaining on this sheet are supportive of the appendix or neutral. And then that would bring us towards the single exit comments that we received.
KJ has his hand up first.
Yeah, just one thing, Dustin, I saw going through, there was a comment in one of the letters that talked about an 8,000 square foot limit for the multiplex housing and wanted to consider that.
Dustin, you were just there. It was Brady's, I believe.
Yes.
Towards the, yeah. No, it was towards the top. I think Brady had another one. Right above Spence. I
Right
just
above
saw it.
Spencer. Oh, yeah, that's one that's touching on both of the multiplex and single exit. So I'm popping that one open. It's a good bridge comment to go across. So here's the specific section where, okay, my cursor's not lining up properly.
Yeah, and just wondering about any tag discussion on this limit versus 6 units. And if we need both.
And maybe Dustin, that would be if you happen to have it up, if you could maybe show us, please.
Yes, where the specific section is here. I have it open, but I don't know the specific section off the top of my head. Let me run through.
Go ahead,
Tom,
Roger.
yeah, Jay, again, you're asking me to recall conversations that we had a long, long time ago, but I believe there was the conversation about 8,000 square feet, but we're limited to 6 units. So doing math in my head, which is always not advisable, I believe that that's 1,500 square feet per unit, if I'm doing math correctly. And I think that as a group, we kind of decided, you know what, that's a pretty good limit. The idea is for middle housing and reducing costs and infill lots. That's a big part of what we understood the driver was for both of these proposals. So trying to recall the conversation that we had is that the tag felt like 1,500 square feet per unit. Now I'm always trying to think and redo that calculation in my head, which was a pretty reasonable cap. So we felt like leaving it. And I'd have to go back into, the recordings or whatever to really make sure I understood it exactly. But I believe that was the conversation we had.
Okay, go ahead, Angela, and then I can comment on this.
Are we looking at single exit or are we looking at multiplex?
We're looking at
Multiplex.
multiplex for the 8,000 square feet.
Okay, because what's on the screen is single exit.
Oh, I'm sorry. That
That's why
explains
I'm
why I
getting a
can't
little
find it.
confused. Okay, I'm getting confused.
And
Me
and
too.
if I can correct my numbers, since I just did the calculation on my phone, it's 1,333 square feet per unit, not 1,500. So told you it was dangerous for me to do math in my head.
Okay, I'm going to scare everyone because I've created an agent to analyze all of our transcripts, and it says that the 8,000 square foot cap traces to a specific math proposed by Jonathan Goldsmith. He figured 8,000 square feet by looking at what studies showed was the most looked for apartment at 3 bedroom averaging 1,200 square feet, and calculated 1,200 times 6 units equals 7,200, then rounded up to 8,000. Roger Haringa initially misremembered the input as 1,300 square feet per unit, but Jonathan Goldsmith clarified it was based on 1,200 square feet rounded up.
Thank you
So
very
if
much,
anyone
Todd.
wants to dispute that, that's fine. But
So my memory of the general principle was the same. I may have had the numbers a little bit off.
yeah. So back to the comment. What was the comment to remove that 8,000 square feet? That is.
Let's see.
The original comment. And the thing that I am struggling with is what I'm hearing is more of a policy discussion to encourage middle housing versus a building standards discussion. I'm trying to kind of weigh that in my head to say, because I'm not hearing any um, life safety, public welfare reason for this particular restriction, just more about generating more affordable housing. And just need to think through this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Angela.
Well, I think part of it is a policy thing because that's what the legislative mandate was to create more affordable housing versus, say, having 2,000 or 3,000 square foot units being built under the IRC. But I agree with the square footage limit because again, this did have a purpose and it wasn't just to skirt around all of the IBC regulations for no real reason. It was to reduce cost of building these units. So
And again, analyzing some of these notes, it seems like some, including Marcus Johnson, thought of the 8,000 as kind of a dividing line between the IRC and the IBC, that if you want something bigger, you go to the IBC. This is just going through the notes, that Marcus can dispute that if that's not a good summary of it. Okay. And it seemed like that led to more, that was in the context, a lot of the discussions on multiple buildings. And I think in the end, this is a standalone 6-unit building, and the TAG did not recommend connecting buildings. So go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, Jay, I would just suggest, in my mind, that does land on the policy side rather than technical side. But if you want to dig back through the legislation that we were directed, and if you have another opinion, let's chat, and we'll talk about that on the as far as putting together an amendment. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Good topic. Does that close out our multiplex
Yeah,
for now?
for now. We have the same comment in addressing some of the single exit. It's supportive of the single exit up to 6 floors. And then in future versions of these appendices, look to maybe address some sort of reduction of sprinkler requirements for the future. So no.
Before you click, Justin, before you click out of that, can someone help at least me understand the 6 floors comment? particularly the unbalanced part. Go ahead, Angela.
I'm not sure about the unbalanced stair requirement. I'm not sure what that phrase is, but the 6 floors, we had this discussion with Rep Dewar. I don't know, whoever was in that meeting remembers that she had asked about that possibility of doing 6 stacked flats because it's six units and being able to provide those. And the justification behind not doing that is that you cannot have a 4-story single family house in the IRC. It would create a completely different animal than what the IRC does. Every structure mandated by the IRC is limited at 3 stories. Your duplexes go to 4 stories, your single family goes to 4 stories, your adult family home goes to 4 stories. All of that becomes an R3 in the IBC, and you have to meet all of those code regulations. So the 3 stories is so that you're basically not creating a code where, okay, you can't do a 4-story single family, but you can do a 6-story multifamily with the same sort of things. So the 3 stories is just because that's what the IRC basically regulates, is structures up to 3 stories.
Okay. Angela, I maybe read this one as this was now jumping to the single exit. Is that also how you?
Okay, nope. I was totally still in the IRC. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
But I think it's still a valid point on the IRC
That
side.
was
So
me. Never mind. Ignore what I just said.
no, I remember that conversation also. And I think that's a good make sure to understand 4 versus 3 on the IRC side. Okay, so on the IBC, go ahead, Roger.
There's a perfect example right there of the challenge the tag had jumping between the IBC and the IRC. So,
and I know I'm guilty of trying to push it into one tag. So thank you for.
I wanted to, Todd, respond a little bit as so that everybody is clear. The way that the current proposal is written is you can use 6 floors. You can construct 6 stories. The single exit is limited to 5 stories. So the idea is the upper 5 stories all exit through the single exit. The ground floor has another way to exit, whether it's another corridor, direct exit out. But just so everybody is clear, and there was a lot of discussion and conversation, and Representative Dewar was part of this conversation as well when she was on that call, and understanding that it is 6 stories, which was the intent of the legislature. This does allow for it by having the upper 5 in the single exit. The ground floor exits a different way.
Now that's in terms of the egress and compartment, the 20 units and so forth.
Yes.
That's not the construction type as we've talked at length in committee and council.
Correct.
I'm not sure this comment is on construction type. So I'm but I'm not clear why the comment is allow flexibility to go to 6 stories. Because right now that is allowed with 2 construction types. And then there's another similar comment from FutureWise, which I also wasn't clear from Marcella. Is that her name? That is similar to about 6 stories. And then Spencer Gardner's comment, who was on the committee and is the planning director in Spokane, was specific to look at 6 stories construction, single construction type. Did anyone else see any other comments along those lines? And I know I've been a strong, at least advocate for discussing this. And I'll reiterate one, I think engineers and architects and so forth feel this is possible, but more importantly, my question is how would a city allow this, like Seattle or Tacoma, if it would technically be a less restrictive local amendment? So we have now something that we have a bundled safe harbor solution, a prescriptive solution essentially that's been agreed on through consensus. process. Could a city come in like a Spokane and propose allowing 6 stories of one construction type? Go ahead, Ange. Yeah, go ahead, Roger, first, then Angela.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Roger.
my response, Todd, is the way I read this is I was not clear. Are they suggesting that we go 6 stories that are exited out of that particular exit? So it is not a construction type conversation. It is what is the exiting? And I don't know that there is anybody that had a serious conversation about then allowing a 7 story, right? 6 stories exiting through the single exit and the ground floor. There wasn't support for that. And then on the building type,
Roger, can you repeat that? There wasn't support for
there
a
wasn't.
mezzanine?
Correct. I think that everybody talked about the legislative intent was 6 stories of construction. It wasn't to go to 7 stories of construction. It was 6 stories of construction.
Correct.
And we all felt the tag, and I guess I'm speaking for the tag, but my memory serves me that the tag felt like 6 stories of construction where 5 used the single exit and 1 exit, the ground floor exit some other way, was very appropriate. So, and then if that you're starting to talk, does that clarify your question, Todd?
I think we were maybe reiterating that there was consensus on the 20 units served by one single stair, right, over 5 stories. That's pretty clear, right? So
Yes.
the egress is addressed.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, building type is a separate, but maybe somewhat related. And I'm going to have to go back through the proposal, Todd. I don't remember technically completely, but I felt like we were building type, agnostic. And I may be wrong, but that's what my understanding is that the proposal right now is building type agnostic. If that is not correct, I'd have to go back through and look. So maybe Angela knows better than I.
Go ahead, Angela. Yep.
Yeah, so it allows multiple construction types to use this provision. The number of stories that you're allowed for individual construction types is a totally different code section. That's in the body of the code. That hasn't changed. There was the discussion for the 3A or something like that, but that the tag did not move forward with. So the number of stories allowed per construction type stays the same as in the body of the code. And then I believe your question, Todd, was could a jurisdiction like Seattle, Tacoma, whoever, say, okay, but we want to allow 6 stories over the main floor so that you would have 6 stories. And in that case, that's technically a no, not without coming and getting approval from the SBCC council, because that would be restricting it, or that would be making it more lenient than this. And this is the basically the minimum on this code.
Correct.
And so you can't go farther than that.
Correct. So right now, as we have talked about at length in this council, the 2 largest cities have provisions to go to 6 stories in type 3A. Maybe they'll change that and not allow it in this case and on the single exit. So another city that would want to do that would have to propose this. Could they propose this and come to the council? And I think that's a challenging ask. So that's the motivation for just addressing it directly by the council. The notes show, the record shows that the tag on a very specific date twice considered this and determined that was out of scope, not actually taking action on, to my understanding, on that issue.
Right, because it didn't have anything to do with single exit. That had to do with allowable stories for a construction type.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that is the question that still remains: is should that be part of it? Are the provisions such that could be allowed? So, okay, we've been dealt with this at length. If it's one where an amendment could simply be proposed and the council could just take action on it formally. Dustin, have we addressed this one?
I'm sorry, have we fully addressed this one? Is that the question?
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand, but maybe I'll reach out to Brady and try to understand the unbalanced stair piece.
So the way I read that one is that a requiring two exits on these similar style buildings not built per the appendix would be an unbalanced cost for what the requirement actually is. If we can do this safely in a single exit configuration up to 6 stories, that they're supportive of that, not necessarily increasing the single exit access to 6 floors. I don't think they're proposing a change to the appendix with this comment.
Okay.
But if we wanted to talk about it more, we can. I won't mark it as like settled or anything like that.
Okay. I don't see any other questions.
All right. So you spoke about Marcelo Busser's comments, and we'll pop that one open here. And so they're supporting the stacked flats and multiplex code proposals. This I think this one's more geared towards the single or the multiplex housing proposal, but I have it open. Let's read it here. So they do have taller single stair buildings in here.
Go ahead, Roger. Sorry, I didn't see your
Well,
hand.
as I read the note, and I did not click open to read the whole email, but when I read the note, I thought it was coming back to the same sprinkler conversation that we had at the beginning of this meeting, which is for the single exit. The tag had a whole lot of discussion about other options and felt like a huge hurdle to get over was by requiring the 13 sprinkler system rather than the 13R. So I don't know if we want to go back and revisit that, but that's where looking at the summary there, she urges the council to maintain single stair multiplex flexibility while considering mandatory 13R sprinklers. I read that to, maybe she was suggesting to not require or to allow 13R and rather than 13 for the single exit. And I think that the tag was, I would say, suggest unanimously, although I might be misspeaking there, but very strongly in support of no, let's require 13, not 13R, knowing that that gives us a whole lot of flexibility on other provisions that were talked about. So.
Okay. Yeah, reading her comments, I think they're more specifically on the multiplex and considering a pathway what we already discussed for a 13D or no system. I don't think she addresses it in the IBC in the single exit.
And then the last comment we had on single exits was oral comment from Ken Brulette. It says there's an editorial error in table T102.2. Let me open up the CR 102. I've got the correct one, so we'll hopefully not have the same confusion last time. T 2.2. I'm not aware with. Oh, there's a. Okay, it's not a table. It's Appendix T 102.2. User note. So he's saying this number 2 right there before the word user is not supposed to be there. And this is just a user note for number 1, and everything else would follow suit to be renumbered after that.
Yep, I remember that testimony.
To clarify, Dustin, the user note applies to number 1. And then what now is 3 occupiable roofs are not permitted should be number 2.
Yeah, the rest of these will get renumbered up 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That seems clear. Did we cover all of Spencer's? Maybe we should open up Spencer's.
1.
Page 12.
Page 12, thank you, Todd.
I think.
Here's one of our last ones right here. Let me go back to the spreadsheet.
Page 17.
Page 17. Yeah, I can probably make it easier to read for folks.
While we're reading this, John, did you have a comment on the last one?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the placement of the bullet note. Number 3 does not become number 2. The bullet 2 is somewhere in the middle. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up from the bottom of what's now shown as the user note, where it says other occupancies are permitted. That's where that's where bullet 2 belongs. Right there. Yes.
Okay.
And the exception applies to just bullet number 2.
Number 2 or number 1, John?
No, the user note applies to number 1.
Right.
There's an exception that follows down below that. That belongs to number 2.
Okay, gotcha.
So the last 2 sentences there are number 2, and everything else remains numbered the same. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, number 2 starts, other occupancies are permitted in the same building, blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, is everyone skimming on Spencer's notes? I think we covered the 3A. I think we covered the multiplex sprinklers, and in general comments on cost benefit, and I would state cost effectiveness in the measures in the process. Go ahead, Roger.
God, I just would, a whole lot of the comments are about the sprinklers and the cost of the sprinklers. I would just suggest to the council and the public, again, the next code cycle, if there is a proposal to expand this 6 stories to another option that enhances the fire protection in some way that doesn't require the sprinklers, I think that the council, if there is a proposal to make that change and it's well thought out, the council will address it at that time. I just think that the proposal that we have now, which does go above and beyond the model codes, is a really good proposal. And in future code cycles, if we want to revisit some of those things that we think are adding costs and there's another way to do it, great, we can look at it at that time.
Yep. Okay. Think we can close this one. Are there any other single exit comments?
No, other than some general ones that are supportive of that, and they're with their own comments that touch multiple proposals.
Okay. Anything else the council would like to consider in this work session on single exit? Okay. Not seeing any hands. Okay. Let's move into
So these are just going to be general. They're not. So what I would propose now that we've gone through anything that can be grouped together is we'll hit the ones that are labeled as editorial correction just in the list as we go down. And anything that's not just listed as an editorial correction, we'll pass over for now. And then next work session, we're planning on bringing back stuff for the it's escaping me right now. The other two appendices that we've been working on. Shoot.
the small dwelling unit and the
Yes, and we're talking about
emergency shelters.
No, we're talking about bringing back the stuff for the mechanical code for the A3 refrigerants and also the embodied carbon appendix next week.
Gotcha.
So we were anticipating some council-sponsored proposals at that meeting. So I was going to place those at the top of the agenda and then start running through the codes in order of the code and by code on these comments that we can't group together in any other way.
Okay, and then I would encourage if any council members have gone through the comments and would like to propose any amendments based on other comments, it would be appropriate to bring those forward and post them also.
Yes.
We don't have to discuss them as a group first. Okay.
Okay. So the first one I have is from Julius Carrion, and this one's on the International Building Code on wood boring and notching provisions. He was the proponent of one of our proposals, and when I saw this one, so this one is, so we broke this one out into two separate comments. And so this is the original email where we got this, and we're pulling out this stuff here. So he's proposing these changes in highlight for section 2308.6.1 and 2308.6.3. The proposal that he had that's going through right now updates some of the graphical depictions of how boreholes and notch holes are placed within studs, and this language would just go along with those changes and line these sections up.
Okay, and why is this considered editorial?
Well, because of it's correlating a change that we have elsewhere in the code. So give me
Gotcha.
2 moments and I can try to pop that open on the CR 102. Yeah, far too many windows open right now.
John, go ahead if you can help us on this.
Oh, sorry. Give me one moment, John. There you go.
Thanks. Yeah, I think Julius's intent is just to change where it says bore to hole. I think looking at his note, and from what I recall, going through at the IBC this last cycle, that's why it's editorial. We're just changing one. I think just changing a couple words from bore to hole. And then he's fixing some of the dimensions in the figures.
Okay, Roger.
And as a structural engineer, I think that's it's good to have that clarity between bore and hole, and so I think that it is good editorial pick up clarification.
But John, or I see Hoyt raising your hand. Is this aligned with 2027 model code language?
Yeah. We just got the language through the 2027.
Got it. Okay. Hoyt, is that you concur? You have your hand up.
Yeah, just a question. You see where it says notch? Should it say notch or bore? Right after it says notched or bored, the notch or bore shall not be closer, or should it stay whole? I thought that's what you just said, that you wanted to get whole out of there and have it as bored. Or does it really matter? I mean, I understand what it means. I could figure it out, but I thought that's what was said.
Okay.
Right where
Well,
it's highlighted. That's it. I just thought if someone else had anything to add.
okay. Well, let's take this offline. I think we understand the intent now.
Just making some notes, 1 second. So the next one, we're going to skip over. This one is it was the same comment we're looking at, but this one's more of a modification. And so I was proposed we hit this one at a future meeting. Then we have 24 PC 010 from R. Scott Douglas. This one is a revamping of a little bit of the special wind region proposal that we had come through. So they have further clarified the mapping boundaries for this region out here. So this graphic would replace the graphic that we have in the CR 102, and also some of the language would get updated a little bit.
Is it just a better map? Is that what I?
So they did some studies on it. So where's the So now I guess they've been correlating this with the new ASCE 7 tool, and they've added a 5-mile transition zone from the lines that were depicted on what's in the CR 102.
Okay.
And I believe that they feel this, so these are the proponents who brought us the change for that map in the special wind region out there on the West Coast. And they have done some additional calculations, and they feel this one would further clarify the application out there on this in the special wind region.
Okay.
Then we get the next one is from Jennifer Gilliland of the Seattle Department of Construction and Development. And this one,
Todd, if I may, I will make sure I look through that wind proposal. I know that we need to be cautious about moving forward to use criteria in ASCE 728. I think it was the year. I will double check that and make sure that that's clear.
Okay. Thank you, Roger.
Okay. So in the proposal for GP 1037, the final revision 1 shows 1107.2.2 as being removed, and it's not shown as not adopted in the CR 102. And so For the WAC, we would add 1102.2 vehicle space size and show it as not adopted in there. And so let me get to that one. I'll show you in the CR 102. Give me 2 seconds. So here's what we have, and I did have a chance to go in and look at the proposal on this one, and the proposal does show this second 1107.2.2 as not being included, and this is just an oversight in the draft here.
Okay.
Next one is from Ken Brulette, oral comment. So this one's an interesting one. I do believe I have this also in the IFC sections as well, but this one's a correlation issue between IFC 907.11.2 and IBC 907.10.2. The IFC CR 102 of 907.11.2 was amended to remove the effective date, while the IBC CR 102 retains some different language, and they are requesting that we correlate these two sections so that the fire and building code provisions match. And so I'd have to look into further exactly what's happening within the IFC section and the IBC section. But to correlate them, as many know that the Chapter 9 and several other chapters are essentially duplicated in the IBC and IFC, and to have them matching is a good benefit for everybody using these codes so we don't get questions down the road. And so I can come back with a proposal on that as far as what the language might need to change, where if it's the IFC language that needs to change or if it's the IBC language that needs to change to match the most recent updates.
Okay.
Similar from Ken Brulette, oral testimony and editorial correction in both the IBC and IFC CR 102s, 909.20 in both sections. It looks like not the amendment in 909.20 is not in the IBC CR 102. That is also in the IFC. So similar, looking to correlate these two topics in both codes, as those chapters are largely duplicated in each code. Getting to our next one for the PC 065. It's from Ken Brulette, oral comment. And oh, so this one points out a issue that SBCC has with the code revisor and some of the rules that we have to follow there. So he's correct that the WAC number as published is shown as 5150-10100, and that section is for section 1010 in the IBC. The reason we have that 10100 is at some point there was an amendment in section 1010, and then subsequently that amendment was removed and the number was just deleted from the WAC. When we then have another amendment that needs to go back into section 1010 and that number was just removed from WAC, we can't go back and reuse it. So as soon as it's deleted, it's gone forever. So, for example, the fire code 54A is an example of not being able to reuse 5154. And this is another example of a number that's been renumbered. So this isn't a change that we can make for this comment. And I don't know if that was clear for everybody exactly what the issue is there. We get to another oral comment from Micah Chappelle, and this one is on IBC 29021 and for I4 child daycare fixtures. They want to remove the bathtub shower requirement for the I4 child daycare occupancies. and clarify by a footnote that a bathtub or shower facilities are not required in childcare. And that aligns with the DCYF WAC governing that. And then it also flags some other edits to that same table that introduced unintended fixture requirements, service sinks, and automatic clothes washer connections, and misaligned our footnotes. And so I don't have specific language from Micah on this one, but we could potentially go back and revisit this one to look at those specifics there, and we can pull those out a little bit better, but I don't have everything, I think, in the oral comment directing us exactly what all's wrong with that. All right, moving on down the line. I've got another one from Ken Brulette, oral comment, and he's requesting a modification. This is a correlation issue, and I know this one should be labeled as an editorial correction. But the IBC CR102 is misaligned with the IFC version, and 903 and 904 should be synchronized across both codes. And so there's some discrepancies across those, and I can bring back something to highlight what those discrepancies are. Our next editorial change comes again from Jennifer Gilliland of Seattle. This one is this is a duplicate, so I'm sorry. Let me just make sure it's not supposed to be for a separate section. Or maybe it's not a duplicate, I'm sorry. No, it's not. It's a very closely related section. So this one is on the EV charging sections of 1107 in the building code. And wants us to strike 1107 2.2 and mark them as not adopted, which will eliminate the conflict between our provisions in 429. Or it's not going to be 429 this code cycle, but the other provisions that we had in 429 for the 2021 code, this would eliminate some conflict that we get frequent questions on. I believe we also have an opinion issued out on this particular code section and how this applies. Okay. This one says modification, but is pointing out drafting errors. Okay. This one's definitely asking some questions about the numbering in the CR102. I mentioned this in the last work session that we had some significant sections renumbered in the WAC, and that's to help avoid any of these reuse of numbers in the future. The sections for the existing building code lived in WAC 5150, 480, and then some numbers thereafter. And I'm trying to get there real quick to show where they were. Here we go. Here was the 2021 edition of the International Existing Building Code. And the way this was numbered showed that the section is actually in 4800 of our WAC, and all the section numbering after that doesn't really play nice with the way the International Building Code has its appendices laid out. And so to make room for all the appendices to potentially have their own specified number and not have to do this in the future, I've moved this pretty far out away from any of the existing state amendments there. So you'll see at the end of 4800, we go to one of our new appendices, Appendix Q. And here is this is the new section for the International Existing Building Code. Is at WAC 5150 6200 and has all retained the same numbering as before. In any of the sections that were marked as reserved in the old WAC sections, those are still all marked as reserved, and all the old numbers are marked as reserved. And these are just going to be fresh, and it'll be everything's condensed down there. There's no old code numbering left over in this in the new numbering scheme that I have worked out on this one. So there's just a clarifying question that they're asking in that particular comment, that this numbering seems to indicate that we have all new sections, and these are the amendments that we made in the existing building code are shown in here, but they're not shown via strikeout underline. They're all just showed as new sections in here. If we were looking to track the amendments that were made in these sections, I would point folks to our table up above where we lay those out there in, here we go. All of these last lines here indicate the changes in the IABC and where and what they are and how they play around. Right. So the next editorial corrections from Ken Brulette on an oral comment. Ken's asking the council to update NFPA 130 referenced in the building code so that it matches the fire code. He notes that our 5150 3500 cites the 2020 version, and in the fire code is referencing the 2023 version. And he's requesting that we update to the 2023 version in the fire code as well. Pretty easy one. Next one's also from Ken Brulette, an oral comment asking for consistency between the fire codes on NFPA 13 edition. The building code references the 2019 edition, and the fire code CR 102 references the 2022 edition. Ken, in his next comment, is looking for some more cleanup on NFPA 130. And so aligning the building code chapter 31 reference to align with the change mentioned above, and then also deleting the reference to which edition of NFPA 130 is being used, and leave that to the reference standards section. And that's been something we've done in several code sections this session to reduce future amendments and need to update that section in the future if we don't have the specific year needing to be changed. Our next comment with editorial corrections also from Ken. He's
Hey, Dustin.
Yes.
I was just going to advise the council that we're going to be going through these, for the rest of the meeting. So if certain council members want to drop, we chose to do it this way instead of having a kind of a correlation separate meeting. So feel free to drop, and we'll continue on through the editorial changes for the rest of the meeting. And then I don't think we'll take any other topic after that. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Todd. And just to clarify, so you're filtering these by the editorial in the correction status in the position column?
Correct.
Okay. So anything that was in the packet that was indicated as a modification or other would be discussed separately.
Yes, I have touched on I believe 2 that are labeled as modification. Just as I was reading them, they seem to not be significant changes, more editorial in nature. But we have been looking at the editorial correction, and the plan was to run through all the editorial ones. If there's time, we'll go back and hit anything that's labeled as not editorial.
Understood.
Thank you, Dustin.
You're welcome. Best there. So this one is relevant to the proposal 066 revision 2 has to do with fixed guide rail transit systems. And that one is not in the CR 102. That one was bounced back from the council to get some correlation done. It had recommendations for inclusion, but did not have specific recommendation to include in the CR 102. And so it is not in there. And he is in this comment saying we should include the revision 2 in there because it'll update the NFPA 130 references and et cetera for that section. The next editorial correction is from Ken Still, is asking for the handrail sections between IBC and IFC 1014.2.2 and 242, or sorry, 1014.2.2, also removed from 1014.2. And in the cross-reference section, 1014.8 projections must be renumbered to 1014.9 projection with the same removal of and 1014.2.2 where the section's being deleted. So we probably have some better language in his actual verbatim testimony and can suss that out where the changes are. Next one is also from Ken. That's an editorial correction to table 1006.2.1 to align with the 2024 IBC and IFC. Use consistently throughout the table automatic sprinkler system and changing with without sprinkler system to with without automatic sprinkler system just to be consistent across the code. Next one is from Ken as well, is requesting editorial and correlation changes between 5150 1006. Did I get that one in there twice? No, the first one's for 1010.213. And the second one's for 1006.2.1. We might have to review his transcript there to make sure we have good stuff here. Looking for the next one's also from Ken. Editorial is we got an internal reference in section 420.13 on licensed care cooking facilities. Item number 9 is required to be installed per sections 904.13.1, 904.13.2, but those references must be updated to 904.13 or 14.1 and 14.2. Next one is also from Ken, cross-reference correction in the amendment to 5150.903.2.1.3. And it cites section 316, but it needs to be changed to 315. And the exception reference needs to be updated to reflect that as well. Then our next one is also from Ken, and tables 5043 and 5044. The footnote J is missing. Oh no, the actual superscript reference to footnote J across the table is missing. For building height and stories, which were intended by proposal 24 GP 1091 revision 5, and so we need to update where those footnote references should pop into that table. And that's the last one for the building code that's editorial. Getting into the mechanical code, we have one from Eric Vandermeer on table 1103.1. He's the table 1103.1 from the 2027 IMC were omitted from the CR 102 filing, and notes that certain values for commonly used refrigerants such as the R454B and R744 need to be updated to correlate with the safety classifications, refrigerant concentration limits, and lower flammability limits established by ASHRAE 34. And I believe that we have that written with the specific language there as well. And we do, and I had some trouble getting this one converted, so everything on that document is pretty small, but we have the full table lines depicted. So I just point out these ones in the red boxes for us to update to the most current ones.
Dustin, if I can pop in real quick. So I noticed for that one, that was, I think it was the statement from Eric indicated it was part of the the code change proposal that and making it editorial to include that. And then I think there are a couple other public comments that also kind of had a similar theme from both Eric and Robert Glass as well.
Okay.
So I guess as we're looking at those, maybe we can include those into a common understanding. But
we can kind of group them together.
Yeah, that was my thought.
And so I guess would they kind of naturally group together if they're grouped by code section like chapter 11, or would catch these two together?
Overall, yeah. So I think like if you look at all the ones that address like table 1103.1 as well as the chapter 15 references, those would probably align together with kind of similar comments.
Okay. See if I can pop out any other 1103s. We have one from Robert Glass on 1103. Looks like that is in the same vein as what Ben was just saying. This similar to what Eric sent over. We have both oral and written comments from Robert on that. Looks like those are the only two that'll be for 1103. And then we have two on, or several on 1109. This first one is editorial. The updated A2L emergency rule language was not included in the CR 102, and that was moved by the council to be included, and it was just an oversight on staff for getting that one in there. And we consider that editorial to add that updated language in there. That is what's currently in force on the emergency rule for that one as well. Another one from Eric on 1109.2.5 and 1109.3.2. This one would be similar to the one above for emergency for the emergency rule alignment of language there. Another one from Ken for an editorial correction. In 008, the implementation section here is not actually a code language section, but it's a kind of administrative section for the Washington State implementation of it. And we have our old implementation date of November 1 of this year, and we need to update that to May 3 of 2027. The last one that we have editorial for the mechanical code comes from Jennifer Gilliland of Seattle, and the comment addresses So this one in the WAC, we're saying that we're not adopting 403.3.2, and we don't specifically have in there any of the subsections that are beneath 403.3.2 before, say, 403.3.3 marked as not adopted. And if you're reading just the WAC, that would be indicative that maybe those sections that aren't be included in that section aren't in there. But when we draft this into publication, those subsections won't be there in the code books that come out. So my thought on this is that we can do that, but that creates a lot more state amendment in the WACs that doesn't necessarily need to be there to show what the intent is. And so, but I would be open to either path, leaving it as is or drafting in all the subsections there to indicate them as not adopted. Next editorial correction in the fire code is for Ken Brulette. And this is two-way communications and deletes IBC section 1009.8 and 1009.81.8.1. So the two codes match, and that exception one is added to 5154 1009 for correlation within the building code. So these two sections should be matchy, and they're not right now. And so Ken's proposing that we get those lined up. The next one, editorial for the fire code, is from Ken. And this is on 903 for lithium ion energy storage systems, and revises this exception in 1207.14 to add townhouse units in R4 condition 1 occupancies. If we incorporate that wording, the Washington amendments will be aligned with the national ESS provisions and avoid confusion about sprinkler requirements for batteries that are part of those systems. Last one in the fire code from Ken. We have both written and oral comments from him. And the NFPA 855 standard is requesting that to be updated to the 2026 edition. The amendments to, I believe, chapter 12, of the IFC were built upon the new NFPA 855 standard, and this would just make them all line up real nice if we had the reference standard referencing the one that everything is based off of. Getting to the UPC editorial correction, we have Christopher Garrish with Delta E Consulting on 1104.1. Updating some terminology from air conditioning plant to appliance, and a typographical error that we have that lists a rainfall rate of 41 inches per hour instead of the intended 1 inch per hour. I think that one's a good change. It's 41 inches per hour. It's going to be flooding. The next one we have from Scott Middleton of the Mechanical Contractors Association. Well, it's not sorry, I'm going to skip over that one. That was just a support with a small modification. Next one we have for the IRC, an editorial correction for R330. R330 commissioning was inserted between the locations and energy rating section, and requests deleting the extra insertion since commissioning is correctly located under R330.12. And then he has a reference correction from 330.6 to 330.7 in 330.7.1. And those are my last editorial corrections to introduce today.
Okay.
Do we want to go back and start hitting any of the other modifications? No. We got 6 minutes.
I think we're going to close out, but thank you for that. It was, important just to go through them and then flag anything and review them. So starting next week, the goal will be to start flagging then proposed modifications. And again, please don't hold back, council members. Please start bringing the amendments forward so we can start to get them in a tracker, and we can then spend these meetings, strategically targeting certain modifications. If you have comments for Dustin, or as they start to put the staff notes together to respond to the testifiers, that's also useful information. So, Dustin, you had indicated, and I think maybe Jay had also, that next week we might see some language on the embodied carbon is one of our goals.
That's what I was anticipating based on
Okay.
the conversation from our last session. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's focus on that. And if you have any other ones, I'll submit a couple that I've noted.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from the council then for this meeting? Okay. Thank you for going through that, Dustin. And thank you everyone for your time. Let's adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.